Master horse racing with daily racing fields Formulator, now free for DRF Bets members. Sign up to get the best bonus in racing with a $250 deposit match, plus a $10 free bet and free Formulator past performances. Go to drf.com/bet to play like a pro today.
Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer here at Pimlico getting ready for Saturday's Preakness. And race number 8 is a nice event on the turf. We're going a mile and an eighth. It's the Grade 3 dinner party. $200,000 is the purse. Click and scan the QR code because DRF past performances for Preakness Saturday now available up on the website. Get studying. Let's take a look at the field for the dinner party. We got a Grade 1 stakes winner down on the rail, the number 1 Atone. He won the Pegasus World Cup Turf 2 starts back. He was not good last time.
It's going to be, the main question of the race is, do you think Atone's going to be able to rebound here? Because I don't know about you, Dan, I did not see his excuse as an odds-on favorite in his most recent start. He was obviously good in his few starts before that one, so we'll see if he can bounce back. This is a really good field for a Grade 3, though.
Let's throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector, because when you peruse Atone's past performances, you'll note that he can win from off the pace, but he also can win on the lead. And drawing inside in a short field, I think they're going to send him.
I think they're probably going to try to use his speed in this race as well, and we'll see how that works out for him. Again, the main question just is, do you think he can rebound? He was awful good winning the Pegasus World Cup Turf 2 starts back with a figure. He also got a really good trip in that race.
And is he also just a little bit dressed up because of the trip he got in that race and because the horse he beat, Ivar's, more of a miler than a mile and an eighth type?
That's actually a very good point, Dan. I didn't want to take too much away from him. I realized that he got a good trip in that race. He also really ran.
Yeah, he fired hard in the stretch that day. That race was at a mile and an eighth. And yes, he did not run well last time out in the fairgrounds. They took him back. He was running against Spooky Channel, who's much improved. Came back to run a good race at Churchill in the Turf Classic 2 weeks ago. Speaking Scout's the number 2, and I've always tried to be a fan of Speaking Scout. I thought he ran okay, went third in the Pegasus 2 starts back. Inside, got to split 5 wide turning into the stretch, got up for third late. In the Maker's Mark last time out, it was a very, very tough field. There wasn't a ton of pace. I'm willing to give him a mulligan. I like him stretching out.
I don't care about the Maker's Mark mile for this horse at all. I'm happy to judge him off of what he did as a 3-year-old, and he was a Grade 1 winner as a 3-year-old. I thought he ran well winning that Hollywood Derby, Dan, but although things worked out for him that day, based on figures, he improved in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, and he did run fine that day, but he also got a really good trip in that race and was no match for Atone.
Trainer Graham Motion has 2 very talented horses coming up next, and I think the number 3 Easter is a little bit underrated. Folks might look at his PPs and say, well, he just is coming out of a first level allowance race, and that's the race we're going to show you right now at Aqueduct. This was his first start off a long layoff, but it's Graham. You don't worry about layoffs with Easter, and Easter got a nice trip and he fired on home.
It was also a really good spot for this horse off the layoff, and he did get a good trip, but he got that kind of trip just because Trevor McCarthy had 2 tons of horse under him all the way around the track. He's way better than these horses. He wins like he's way better than these horses. And now Graham's going to step him back up in class. And I think he's really interesting stepping back up. The 2 races where they tried to stretch him out last year, he ran fine, but maybe he's better going shorter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if a mile and an eighth is going to be in his wheelhouse, because Graham was very interested in stretching him all the way out last year. And I think a mile was just sort of his tightener last time. Yeah. A mile and an eighth will be good. Hurricane Dream was another Graham horse off a layoff, a shorter layoff last time out. This horse didn't really fire in the Pegasus World Cup. It was a disappointing performance. He bounced back. He was a winner every step of the way in this allowance at Keeneland.
Man, this is a really, really impressive win. And I guess if he's going to run another race like this one, he's supposed to be really tough in here. It's also worth pointing out that his stateside debut was in that Pegasus World Cup Turf. Atone got a good trip in that race. Speaking Scout got a good trip in that race. Hurricane Dream did not get a particularly good trip in that race and actually ran very well. I feel like he might be the horse to beat in some ways in here, Dan. I also feel like he's going to get bet like that. I think he's going to take a ton of money in here. And I'm not sure how sure I would want to go. He was awful good last time.
Visually impressive last time out. Joel Rosario will take them out. It'll be interesting to see what kind of trip he'll get. To me, I think he's a 1-run closer.
Yeah.
So he might need a little bit of pace help up front. Up next is the 5 Rising Empire. They tried a mile and a half with him last time out in the Elkhorn. Let's just draw a line through that race, shall we? His start 2 starts back in the Muniz. Couldn't find an excuse. I think that's the best he can do. He walked the dog on the lead. A good horse ran him down.
I mean, I agree with all that stuff. He did run a fine race that day, though. I mean, you can go back and pull the replay if you want to. He was on the lead the entire way. Atone sat right behind him. Atone came up to challenge him at the top of the stretch. This horse would not let Atone get by. I thought he ran pretty well that day. The question is, can he run another race like that one? This is a good field.
but he's also versatile, so I think he can play off of Atone. I think Atone's going to take the race to Rising Empire this time. Rising Empire will be just fine sitting off of him. Never Explain is up next. I know you've been a big fan of Never Explain throughout his career. He's in sharp form for Sugar McGay. Another Shug horse getting better with experience. Here's his most recent start at Tampa Bay Downs, going 1 mile and a 16th. Didn't break very well, but after that the trip worked out.
It kind of feels like this is one of those Shug horses who's finally figured out he can be a pretty difficult horse to ride. For a horse who's as handy as Never Explain is, he gets lots of bad trips. But his last 2 starts, it kind of feels like maybe he's getting over that. He sat in good position. He didn't get too headstrong. He really ran through the stretch. Shug is now going to step him up, maybe at the right time. This is a tough field. I like this horse.
The Mercurial Emmanuel is up next. Which Emmanuel is going to show up? The horse that runs a fine race in the Canadian turf 2 starts back, where he ran down a very sharp stablemate, or the horse that stunk up the joint in the Saratoga Derby last year and was eased and just didn't fire last time out in the Maker's Mark. Yeah. I know he didn't break very well. I would have liked to have seen him run a step.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we gave the pass to Speaker Scout for that Maker's Mark mile. I'm not sure how much I want to give Emmanuel a pass, but he just didn't really show up, and he was supposed to run better than that in that race. His turf form before that was pretty good. I'm not really sold on him, Dan. I know that he's pretty good. Maybe he falls into a trip here and runs better. I just don't want to take too short a price on him.
I think that's a very good point. You have to demand value on him because you never know what you're going to get, but he does have some upside potential and some tactical speed. Top pick time for the dinner party. We're going with motion, just different motion.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not going with motion at all in here. I'm going with Shug in this race, the 6, Never Explain. I know it's a really tough spot for him. I have a thing for this horse, Dan. I'm gonna try to lose a little bit more money on him Saturday. I know this is a tough race for him. I got to give him one more chance. I think he's going to be a great price in here.
Guy's telling me for 6 months he likes Easter, Easter, Easter. It's always going to be Easter
like
Sunday. At the end of the day, he goes with Shug. I'm going with the horse that was just so impressive last time out. Hurricane Dream just looked like a graded stakes winning kind of horse the way he finished off his last race at Keeneland. Maybe he takes some money. He's running hard in the stretch. Be a good race, the dinner party.